The stars looked different from the bridge of the defiant dawn. Commander Hyunwoo stood with his hands behind his back, watching the vast emptiness of space through the viewport. For 300 years, humans had been prisoners in their own solar system. The aliens called it a quarantine. They said humans were too violent, too dangerous to join the galaxy. They built barriers around Earth and told humanity to stay home. But humans never stopped building, never stopped learning, never stopped planning for the day they would break free. "Sir, we're approaching the border," Lieutenant Bora said from her station. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel. The weapon systems hummed with power, ready but silent. Hyunwoo nodded. He was 42 years old and had spent half his life preparing for this moment. "Any sign of patrol ships?" "Scanning now," Officer Jiwon replied. She was young, only 26, but her eyes missed nothing. The screens in front of her showed dozens of signals. "I count 47 Dominion vessels. They're forming a blockade pattern." 47, Hyunwoo repeated quietly. "They think that's enough." The Galactic Dominion controlled most of the known galaxy. 7 alien species worked together under their rule, and they had never lost a war. Their ships were massive. Their weapons were powerful. They believed nothing could challenge them. They were about to learn otherwise. "Open a channel," Hyunwoo ordered. Jiwon pressed a button. "Channel open, sir." Hyunwoo spoke clearly and calmly. "This is Captain Hyunwoo of the Terran vessel Defiant Dawn. We are leaving our home system. We have the right to travel freely. Stand aside." For a moment, there was silence. Then laughter came through the speakers. Alien laughter, rough and mocking. "This is Admiral Vexthar of the Dominion Fleet," a deep voice answered. "You have no rights, human. Return to your planet immediately, or we will disable your ship and tow you back like the primitive creatures you are." Bora looked at Hyunwoo. Her jaw was tight. "Sir?" "Hold position," Hyunwoo said. He kept his voice level. "Admiral Vexthar, we are leaving. This is your final warning." More laughter. "You dare threaten us? Your single ship against my fleet? This will be entertaining." The Dominion ships moved closer, surrounding the Defiant Dawn. They were huge vessels, each one built for war. Their weapons glowed with charging energy. "They're targeting our engines," Jiwon reported. "They want to capture us intact." "Let them try," Hyunwoo said. "Raise shields." The Defiant Dawn had shields unlike anything the Dominion had ever seen. 300 years of isolation had forced humans to innovate. They couldn't copy alien technology, so they invented their own. The shields activated, creating an invisible barrier around the ship. The Dominion fleet fired. Bright beams of energy shot through space, hitting the human ship from all directions. The energy weapons were designed to cripple ship systems without destroying them. But the beams simply vanished against the shields. The energy dispersed into nothing. On his flagship, Admiral Vexthar stared at his screens in confusion. "What? How is this possible?" "Fire again!" The Dominion ships unleashed another barrage. Hundreds of energy bolts struck the Defiant Dawn. Again, they did nothing. The human ships sat there untouched, as if the weapons were nothing but light shows. "Their shields are absorbing everything," Vexthar's tactical officer said, his voice shaking. "The energy signature doesn't match any known technology." Vexthar's eyes narrowed. "Then we use more power. All ships, maximum weapons." On the Defiant Dawn, Hyunwoo watched calmly as the enemy prepared their next attack. "They still don't understand," he said quietly. "They think they just need more power." "Sir, they're charging heavy weapons now," Bora said. "They'll try to overwhelm our shields." "They can try," Hyunwoo said. Then he turned to Bora. "Weapons free. Show them what humans learned during our isolation." Bora smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Yes, sir." Firing railguns. The Defiant Dawn's weapons were not energy beams. They were physical projectiles. Massive chunks of tungsten metal accelerated to 30% of light speed. When something moved that fast, it hit with the force of a nuclear bomb. 3 railgun rounds left the human ship. They crossed the distance in seconds. 3 Dominion destroyers simply exploded. The impacts tore through their shields like they weren't even there. Metal and fire bloomed in space where the ships had been. The Dominion fleet stopped moving. For the first time in thousands of years, they felt something they didn't recognize at first. Fear. "All ships, evasive action." Vexthar screamed into his communicator, but the Defiant Dawn was already moving. The ship turned with impossible grace for its size. More railgun rounds fired. Another Dominion vessel exploded. Then another. The human ship's targeting computer tracked every enemy at once, something Dominion technology couldn't do. "They're trying to surround us," Jiwan said, her fingers flying over her console. 43 ships breaking formation. One battlecruiser charging quantum torpedoes. Hyunwoo nodded. "They're still fighting like they're superior. Like they're hunting prey." "Bora, deploy missile swarms." Jiwan, activate the EMP net. The Defiant Dawn launched hundreds of small missiles. They spread out like a cloud, each one targeting a different Dominion ship. At the same time, electromagnetic pulse generators activated, sending waves of disruptive energy through space. Dominion communications went silent. Their targeting systems went dark. Their formations fell apart. The human ship moved through the chaos like a predator. Every shot was precise. Every movement was calculated. The battle, if it could even be called that, lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, 44 Dominion ships were destroyed or drifting in space, powerless and broken. Only 3 vessels remained functional: Admiral Vexthar's flagship and 2 escorts. "Sir, the remaining ships are jumping to hyperspace," Jiwan reported. "They're running. Let them go," Hyunwoo said. "They need to deliver a message." He opened a channel to the fleeing ships. "Admiral Vexthar, tell your Dominion this. Humanity remembers. We remember being caged like animals. We remember 300 years of isolation. And we spent every single day of those 300 years making sure it would never happen again. Your empire kept us in a box. Now we're out and we're not going back." The Dominion ships vanished into hyperspace, running faster than they had ever run before. Bora stood up from her station. "Sir, we did it. We actually did it." Hyunwoo allowed himself a small smile. This was just the first step. "Now comes the hard part." "What's that?" Jiwan asked. "Now we have to win the war." Jiwan's console beeped urgently. She looked down at her screens and her eyes went wide. "Sir, I'm detecting multiple hyperspace signatures. Human ships. Dozens of them. They're coming out of the quarantine zone at points all along the border." Hyunwoo nodded slowly. "Earth didn't send one ship to challenge the Dominion. We sent a fleet. The war for humanity's freedom has begun." The Defiant Dawn turned and jumped into hyperspace, heading deeper into Dominion territory. Behind it, across hundreds of light years, other human vessels were emerging from the shadows. The galaxy was about to change forever, and the Dominion had no idea what was coming. The Grand Chamber on Nexus Prime was built to impress. Its ceiling stretched so high that clouds sometimes formed inside. 7 species of the Dominion had representatives here, seated in a great circle. For thousands of years, this chamber had been the center of galactic power. Today, it was the center of panic. Grand Arbiter Chauvel stood at the center of the chamber, trying to maintain calm. The Mindari were telepathic beings, and Chauvel could feel the fear radiating from every mind in the room. Fear was not something the Dominion usually experienced. Admiral Vexthar stood before them, his reptilian form bent in shame. His uniform was scorched from battle. "I tell you the truth," he said, his voice hoarse. "One human ship destroyed 44 of my vessels. Their technology is beyond anything we've encountered." "Impossible," Councillor Rathmek roared. He was another Draknor like Vexthar, but his scales were darker. "You are making excuses for your failure." "I have the sensor logs," Vexthar said quietly. He pressed a button and holographic displays filled the chamber. They showed the battle, the Dominion fleet firing uselessly, the human ship moving with impossible speed, the destruction that followed. The chamber fell silent. Several counselors sat back in their seats, faces pale or colors dimmed depending on their species. "This is one ship," a soft voice said. Counselor Tyrion of the luminous species glowed with soft blue light. "One ship cannot threaten the entire Dominion." "It's not one ship," Chauvel said quietly. They had just received new reports. "It's dozens, maybe hundreds. Human vessels have broken through the quarantine at 17 different points. They're destroying our border stations and pushing into our territory. Then we crush them." Rathmek slammed his fist on his desk. "We launch the full armada. Every ship we have. We show these primitives what true power looks like." "And if we fail?" Tyrion asked. "The humans have been isolated for 300 years. What if they spent all that time preparing for this moment?" The debate exploded. Counselors shouted at each other. Some demanded war. Others suggested diplomacy. A few even wondered if they should offer the humans peace. The unity that had held the Dominion together for millennia was cracking. Light years away aboard the Defiant Dawn, Hyun-woo received a message from Fleet Admiral Dae-jung. The old admiral's face appeared on the screen. His hair was gray and lines marked his weathered face. He had spent his entire life planning this moment. "Commander Hyun-woo," Dae-jung said, "your mission was a success. The Dominion is in chaos, but now comes Phase 2. "What are our orders, sir?" Hyun-woo asked. "We're not here to conquer the galaxy," Dae-jung said. "We're here to free it. Every species the Dominion has subjugated, every world they've oppressed, they all need to know that rebellion is possible. We're going to show them," Hyun-woo understood. "Hit their supply lines. Disrupt their communications. Make them look weak." "Exactly. And help anyone who asks for it." Dae-jung's expression softened. "We're not like them, Commander. We don't build empires. We build alliances." The channel closed. Hyun-woo stood on the bridge thinking about those words. Behind him, Dr. Minji entered. She was the ship's medical officer, but she was also its conscience. "I heard the orders," she said quietly. "We're going to start a war across the entire galaxy." "We're already at war," Hyun-woo replied. "We're just choosing our battles carefully." "And the cost?" Minji asked. "How many will die?" Hyun-woo had no answer for that. "Sir," Ji-won called out, "I'm picking up a distress signal. It's coming from the planet Viridian 4, a mining colony." Hyun-woo walked to her station. "Show me." The signal played through the speakers, screaming "weapons fire," and then a voice speaking in a language the human translators quickly decoded. "Please, anyone who can hear this. The Dominion is evacuating us. They're going to destroy the colony rather than let it fall into rebel hands. There are thousands of us. We have nowhere to go." "The Viridians are Kalar," Bora said, checking her database. "A species the Dominion conquered 200 years ago. They've been slaves ever since." Hyun-woo made his decision quickly. "Set course for Viridian 4, maximum speed." "And sir," "That's not part of our mission," Bora pointed out. "It is now," Hyun-woo said. The Defiant Dawn arrived at Viridian 4 to find a Dominion garrison preparing to leave. Several transport ships were loading soldiers and equipment. On the ground, fires burned. The Dominion was implementing scorched earth tactics. "Lock weapons on the garrison ships," Hyun-woo ordered. The battle was brief. The garrison forces were not prepared for a human warship. Within minutes, the Dominion soldiers were either dead or fleeing. The transports exploded before they could escape. On the planet's surface, thousands of Kalar stared up at the sky. They had expected death. Instead, they saw their oppressors driven away. "We should go," Bora said. "Every minute we stay here increases the chance of Dominion reinforcements." "No," Dr. Minji said firmly. "We need to make contact." "Show them we're different," Hyun-woo agreed. "Ji-won, open a channel to the surface. Let's talk to them." The Kalar who answered the call was frightened. The insectoid being's forearms trembled. You're the humans? The ones the Dominion fears?" "We're humans," Hyun-woo confirmed. "And we're not here to conquer you. We're here to help if you'll let us." The Kalar didn't believe it at first. Why would one species help another for free? In the Dominion, nothing came without a price. But Dr. Minji beamed down with a medical team. They treated the injured. They shared food and supplies. They asked for nothing in return. News of the liberation of Viridian 4 spread quickly. The Dominion tried to control the information, but they couldn't stop it. Messages flew between worlds. Footage of human ships helping freed slaves contradicted the official propaganda that called humans monsters. On Nexus Prime, Grand Arbiter Chauvel watched the reports with growing unease. The telepathic leader could sense something shifting in the minds of beings across the Empire. Fear was turning into hope. Not hope in the Dominion, but hope in something else. The Council voted. They would mobilize the Grand Fleet. 50,000 warships would converge on human-controlled space. It was the largest military operation in Dominion history. But Chauvel also authorized something secret. A small diplomatic team would try to contact the human leadership. Perhaps, the Arbiter thought, there was another way to end this than drowning the galaxy in blood. Aboard the Defiant Dawn, as they prepared to leave Viridian 4, sensors detected something extraordinary. Massive hyperspace signatures, not Dominion ships. "Sir, you need to see this," Ji-won said, her voice filled with awe. Hyun-woo looked at the viewport. Ships were emerging from hyperspace. Huge vessels, their design unlike anything in Dominion records. They dwarfed even the Defiant Dawn. "Are those Kalar ships?" Bora whispered. A communication came through. The voice was old and tired but strong. Humans of Earth, I am Matriarch Ilara of the Kalar Resistance. For 200 years we have hidden in the dark, too weak to fight alone. We watched and waited for someone to strike the first blow against our oppressors. You have done what we could not. If you truly fight against the Dominion, then let us fight together. Hyunwoo felt something settle in his chest. Earth wasn't alone anymore. Welcome to the fight, he said. Together we might actually win this. In space around Viridian, 4 human and Kalar ships formed up together. The first alliance of free species in 300 years. The Dominion had created enemies through its cruelty. Now those enemies were uniting, and the Empire had no idea how to stop it. The sanctuary system was hidden deep within a nebula. The swirling gases and exotic particles made sensors useless. It was the perfect hiding place. For 200 years, the Kalar had built their secret fleet here, waiting for the right moment to strike back. Now, humans walked on Kalar ships for the first time. Hyunwoo stood in the meeting chamber aboard the Eternal Vigil, Matriarch Ilara's flagship. The ceiling was low by human standards. Everything was designed for beings half his height with 4 arms. Around the table sat Fleet Admiral Dae-jung, Dr. Minji, and several human officers. Across from them, Kalar leaders watched with compound eyes that showed no emotion. Matriarch Ilara spoke first. Her voice came through translators, but the bitterness was clear. Tell me why we should trust you. You are newcomers to this war. You don't know the Dominion's true strength. They have crushed rebellions before. They will crush yours too. We've already destroyed over 100 Dominion ships, Fleet Admiral Dae-jung said calmly. He was older than everyone in the room, and his voice carried authority. We're not amateurs. 100 ships, Ilara repeated. The Dominion has hundreds of thousands. You celebrate small victories while they gather their real strength. We tried open rebellion once. We lost everything. Most of our people are slaves now. The ones you see here are all that survived. The tension in the room was thick. Dr. Minji noticed scars on the Kalar around the table. Not battle scars, something worse. Those marks on your arms, Minji said quietly. I've seen similar patterns. Medical experimentation. Ilara's mandibles clicked together, a sign of anger. The Dominion didn't just conquer us. They used us as test subjects. They wanted to create biological weapons, diseases that would make populations docile and obedient. When we resisted, they tested them on us. The humans were silent. Minji's face went pale. Earth faced something similar, she said. During the first quarantine enforcement, Dominion probes tried to deploy nanoweapons in our atmosphere. They wanted to alter human brain chemistry, make us passive. We stopped them, but barely. For the first time, Ilara's expression softened slightly. They did that to you too? They do it to everyone they can't easily control, Hyunwoo said. We found the records in captured Dominion stations. At least 12 species have been subjected to biological or genetic modification programs. The room was quiet for a moment. Shared trauma was beginning to build a bridge between the 2 species. Even if we work together, Ilara said, the numbers are impossible. They're sending 50,000 ships against us. We have maybe 300 between both our fleets. That's more than 100 to 1. Lieutenant Bora had been studying tactical data on her portable screen. They have more ships, she said, but they fight the same way they fought for thousands of years. They've never had to adapt because they've never lost. We can use that, how? A Kalar officer asked skeptically. Bora displayed a hologram showing Dominion fleet tactics. They form rigid battle formations. They rely on overwhelming firepower. They expect enemies to fight the same way. But we don't have to. We can be unpredictable. Use the environment. Hit and run. They're hunting elephants. We can be wolves. Ilara studied the tactical display. She had spent 2 centuries planning revenge. She knew Dominion tactics better than almost anyone. It might work, she admitted slowly. But only if we can truly coordinate. Our communication systems are different. Our weapons operate on different principles. Our ships move differently. Then we practice, Hyunwoo said. Starting now. Before they could continue, alarms blared. A Kalar officer rushed in. Matriarch, we have Dominion scout ships approaching the nebula. They've found us, everyone stood immediately. How many? Ilara demanded. 6 light scouts. They haven't detected our main fleet yet, but they will soon. And then they'll report our location. Hyunwoo and Ilara looked at each other. If those scouts escape, Ilara said, the Dominion will know where we are. They'll strike before we're ready. We intercept them, Hyunwoo said. Together. Right now. Ilara's mandibles clicked again, but this time it was different. A test. You would risk your ship on our first mission together? Trust has to start somewhere, Hyunwoo replied. Minutes later, the Defiant Dawn and 3 Keelar escort ships jumped to the edge of the nebula. The Dominion scouts were there, scanning the area. When they detected the approaching vessels, they immediately tried to transmit a warning. Jam their communications, Hyunwoo ordered. Already on it, Jiwon replied. Her fingers flew over her console. But they're using quantum entanglement transmitters as backup. I can't block that. Commander Taeyang, a young human officer assigned as liaison to the Keelar ships, spoke through the communication link. The Keelar vessels have biological signal dampers. If we coordinate our jamming with theirs, we can create interference. It was messy. Human and Keelar systems didn't sync perfectly, but Taeyang worked frantically to bridge the gap, creating a shared targeting network. The 2 species ships had never fought side by side before. Their coordination was rough, but it worked. The Dominion scouts tried to run, but the combined fleet was too fast. Railgun fire from the Defiant Dawn crippled 2 scouts. Keelar bioweapons, living organisms that attacked ship systems, disabled 2 more. The last 2 tried to jump to hyperspace. They're getting away, Bora said. No, they're not, a Keelar weapons officer replied through the link. The Keelar ships fired strange projectiles that exploded in bursts of electromagnetic energy. The scouts' hyperspace drives failed. Moments later, they were destroyed. Did we stop the transmission? Hyunwoo asked. Jiwon checked her systems, her face tense. Partially. They got a fragment through. The Dominion knows there are ships here, and they know we're working together, but they don't know how many or exactly where. On his flagship deep in Dominion space, Admiral Rathmek received the fragmentary transmission. When he saw footage of human and Keelar ships fighting together, his rage boiled over. An abomination, he snarled. Inferior species cooperating? It's against the natural order. They must be exterminated. He ordered his fleet to accelerate. The Grand Fleet would reach Sanctuary in 72 hours. Back in the nebula, the combined human Keelar fleet returned to the hidden base. The mission had been successful, but the cost was clear. They had bought time, but not much. In the command center, intelligence officer Sarah had been working on a different problem. The young human analyst had been monitoring Dominion communication networks, looking for patterns. Admiral Dae-jung, you need to see this, she said, displaying her findings. I've identified 3 other species showing signs of organized resistance. The Torvan, the Whisper Collective, and the Stone Kin. They all have hidden forces, just like the Keelar, but they think they're alone. They think they're the only ones resisting, Dae-jung said. Understanding immediately, the Dominion told each of them the same lie, Sarah confirmed, that no one else was brave enough to fight. It kept them isolated. Hyunwoo saw the opportunity. What if we show them the truth? Broadcast footage of humans and Keelar working together. Let every oppressed world see that resistance is possible. It's risky, Ilara warned. It will tell the Dominion exactly what we're doing. They already know we're here, Hyunwoo said. At this point, we need allies more than we need secrecy. Dae-jung made the decision. Do it. Broadcast on all frequencies. Let the galaxy see. Matriarch Ilara stood slowly. She looked at the humans around her. 2 days ago, they had been strangers. Now they were comrades. The Keelar resistance formally proposes a military alliance with Earth, but I have one condition. Name it, Dae-jung said. This can't just be about winning battles. We need to prove to the galaxy that a different kind of civilization is possible, one where species work together as equals, not because they're forced to, but because they choose to. Hyunwoo extended his hand. The Sanctuary Pact, an alliance of free species. Ilara reached out with one of her 4 arms and grasped his hand. The Sanctuary Pact, she agreed. The broadcast went out across the galaxy. Footage of human and Keelar ships fighting together. Messages of hope and resistance. Within hours, responses came back. From the Torvan, from the Whisper Collective, from a dozen other oppressed worlds. The rebellion was spreading, and the Dominion's worst nightmare was coming true. The abandoned research station floated in neutral space, far from any inhabited system. It had been forgotten for decades. Now it hosted the most important secret meeting in galactic history. Captain Jinwoo brought his stealth ship, the Silent Prayer, to dock with the station. His hands were steady on the controls, but his mind raced with suspicion. Everything about this felt like a trap. Are you sure about this, sir? He asked Fleet Admiral Dae-jung. The old admiral sat in the passenger seat, calm despite the danger. Beside him, Ambassador Soman reviewed her notes. She was one of the few humans old enough to remember peaceful contact with aliens before the quarantine. No, Daijung admitted. But if Grand Arbiter Chauvel is genuine, this could save millions of lives. If it's a trap, well, that's why you're here, Captain, to get us out. They entered the station through the airlock. The interior was dark and cold. Emergency lights provided just enough illumination to see. At the center of the main chamber, a figure waited. Grand Arbiter Chauvel stood alone. The Mindari's telepathic abilities meant they could sense emotions, and Chauvel could feel the human's fear and suspicion. It was fair. The Arbiter felt the same. You came, Chauvel said. I wasn't certain you would. You risked everything sending that message, Soman replied. We had to know why. Chauvel's form shimmered slightly, a sign of distress in their species. The Dominion is dying. Not from your attacks, though those have hurt us. It's dying because it was built on a lie. The lie that some species are meant to rule and others to serve. That lie is finally falling apart. Then surrender, Daijung said bluntly. Order your fleets to stand down. It's not that simple. The Council is split. Some of us want peace and reform. Others, like Rathmech, want total war. They would rather see the galaxy burn than admit we were wrong. Chauvel paused. I can help you. I have intelligence on the Grand Fleet's formation, Admiral Rathmech's tactical preferences, even override codes that could disable Dominion weapon systems. Soman felt her breath catch. In exchange for what? Prove you can win. Defeat the Grand Fleet at Sanctuary. If you do that, I have enough support on the Council to force a ceasefire. We can negotiate a real peace. Reform the Dominion into something better. And the override codes? Jinwoo asked suspiciously. Using those would expose you as a traitor. Yes, Chauvel said simply. I'm aware. There was silence. Daijung studied the alien leader carefully. You're asking us to accept your sacrifice. I'm asking you to accept help that will save lives on both sides. What happens to me doesn't matter. Soman stepped forward. It matters. Using your codes would win the battle, but it would prove we're willing to sacrifice others for victory. That's not who we want to be. Chauvel looked at her with something like surprise. You would refuse help that guarantees victory? We'll take the intelligence, Daijung decided. But not the override codes. We win on our own terms, or we don't win at all. Light years away at Sanctuary, the Dominion Grand Fleet emerged from hyperspace. 50,000 ships filled the space around the nebula. Their formation was precise and overwhelming. At the center, Admiral Rathmech's flagship, the Absolute Victory, gleamed with menace. The Admiral broadcast his demand across all frequencies. Rebels and humans, you have one chance. Surrender now and you will be returned to servitude with minimal punishment. Resist and we will destroy every ship, every station, every world that supports you. On the bridge of the Defiant Dawn, Hyunwoo listened to the threat in silence. Around him, the bridge crew waited for his response. Finally, he spoke. All ships power up weapons. Send a message without words. Across the Sanctuary-packed fleet, energy signatures blazed to life. 300 ships against 50,000. The odds were impossible. But not one ship powered down or retreated. Rathmech saw their defiance. Fools, he muttered. All ships advance. Crush them. The Dominion fleet moved forward into the nebula. That was their first mistake. Officer G1 activated the trap they had spent 2 days preparing. Hundreds of exotic matter bombs hidden throughout the nebula detonated simultaneously. They didn't explode with fire. Instead, they released cascading electromagnetic fields that spread through the gas clouds. Instantly, Dominion sensors went blind. Their targeting systems failed. Ships lost track of each other. The precise formation that was their strength became their weakness as vessels collided in the confusion. All units, implement scatter protocol, Hyunwoo ordered calmly. The Sanctuary-packed fleet broke into small groups, each one moving independently. They knew this nebula. They had practiced fighting here. The Dominion ships were lost in a maze. Kalar vessels, with their biological navigation systems, could sense the nebula's currents naturally. They struck at Dominion supply ships, causing panic. Human ships used hit-and-run tactics, appearing from the gas clouds, firing and vanishing before the enemy could respond. The Torvin, who had joined the fight, deployed cybernetic warfare, hacking Dominion systems and turning some ships against their own fleet. For the first time in millennia, Dominion crews experienced true fear. On the absolute victory. Rathmec refused to accept what was happening. Forward! All ships forward, close to point-blank range where they can't escape. His officers tried to protest. Sir, we're taking massive casualties. We should regroup. We have 50,000 ships, Rathmec roared. Numbers will prevail. Advance! It was a catastrophic mistake. By pushing deeper into the nebula, Rathmec split his own fleet into smaller groups that could be destroyed one by one. Sub-Commander Vithra watched from her station as the battle became a massacre. She had served the Dominion her entire life. She believed in order and hierarchy, but watching thousands die for one admiral's pride, she began to doubt. When Rathmec gave his next order, her doubt turned to horror. Deploy the bioweapons, the admiral commanded. Sterilize the entire system. Kill everything. If we can't have it, no one can. The bioweapons would kill billions on nearby planets, innocents who had nothing to do with the battle. Vithra made her choice. She locked Rathmec in his command chamber and seized control. Her voice went fleet-wide. All ships, cease fire. Disengage and withdraw. Thousands of Dominion ships, their crews exhausted and terrified, obeyed. They jumped to hyperspace and fled, but thousands more, still loyal to Rathmec's ideology, continued fighting. Yunwu saw the fleet splitting. It was an opportunity. He broadcast on all channels. Attention, Dominion forces. Any ship that withdraws now will not be pursued. We're not here to slaughter you. We're here to stop you from slaughtering others. Choose wisely. It was brilliant psychology. Crews that feared punishment for retreat could now frame their withdrawal as accepting a truce. More ships disengaged. The Dominion fleet was evaporating, but Rathmec broke free from his chamber. In a final act of rage, he took control of the absolute victory and set course directly for the center of the packed fleet. A ramming attack. If he couldn't win, he would kill as many enemies as possible. Commander Taeyang saw it coming. The young liaison officer was aboard a Kalar escort vessel. Without hesitation, he ordered his ship into the flagship's path. Taeyang, no. Hyunwoo shouted over the link. Someone has to, sir. Make it count. The collision was spectacular. Both ships exploded, buying precious seconds. The Defiant Dawn and its battle group unleashed everything they had. The absolute victory, already damaged, broke apart under the assault. Admiral Rathmec's last transmission was a curse against the inferior species that had defeated him. When the battle ended, the silence was deafening. Debris floated everywhere. The Dominion Grand Fleet was destroyed. Less than 10,000 ships had escaped. But the victory was costly. The Sanctuary Pact had lost nearly a third of its fleet. Taeyang's sacrifice was just one of thousands. On the bridge of the Defiant Dawn, Hyunwoo stood motionless. They had won the battle. But Intelligence Officer Sarah's next report made his blood run cold. Sir, long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements. 7 Dominion sector fleets, over 70,000 ships, are converging on our position, and I'm receiving transmissions from allied worlds. 3 more species have risen in open rebellion. Industrial worlds are striking. The Dominion is mobilizing everything. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Sanctuary. The galaxy was burning. On the liberated world of Haven's Rest, the Coalition Council met in a hastily constructed building. 7 species sat around a table trying to forge a new government while war raged across 1,000 systems. Premier Youngmi of Earth stood at the head of the table. She was tired. The weight of leadership showed in her eyes. She had been a resistance fighter once. Now she was a politician, and she wondered which role was harder. The casualty reports, she said quietly. Please. Matriarch Alara provided the numbers. The Kalar leader looked older now, worn down by months of fighting. We've won 17 major battles, liberated 200 worlds, but our losses are mounting. Human casualties are climbing. The Kalar have lost 2 of our 3 remaining fleet groups. The Torvan are at half strength. And the Dominion? Asked a Whisper Collective representative, their gaseous form swirling with agitation. They're losing territory, Intelligence Officer Sarah reported. But their core worlds remain untouched. They still have millions of ships in reserve. General Kyungsoo slammed his fist on the table. The hardline human commander's face was red with frustration. Then we push forward. We take the war to their homeworlds. We end this. At what cost? Premier Youngmi asked quietly. How many more die for total victory? As many as it takes, Kyung-soo shot back. They imprisoned us for 300 years. They've enslaved dozens of species. They deserve no mercy. This isn't about mercy, former Grand Arbiter Chauvel said. The Mindari had fled the Dominion after their betrayal was discovered. Now they led a moderate faction. It's about what comes after. If we destroy the Dominion completely, we create a power vacuum. Chaos. Billions could die in the aftermath. Better chaos than tyranny, a Stonekin representative rumbled. The debate grew heated. The coalition threatened to tear itself apart before it even solidified. Premier Youngmi tried to find consensus, but the divisions were too deep. While the politicians argued, Captain Hyunwoo received a strange message. It came on a frequency that shouldn't exist, from a location at the edge of known space. This is the architect. Captain Hyunwoo, you are requested at Threshold Station. Come alone. Hyunwoo had heard rumors of the old ones, ancient machine intelligences that supposedly seeded life in the galaxy billions of years ago. He had dismissed them as myths. Now he wasn't so sure. He took the silent prayer, Captain Jinwoo's stealth ship, and traveled to the coordinates. Threshold Station was massive, larger than any structure he had ever seen. It was clearly ancient, built with technology far beyond even human advances. Inside, the architect waited. It appeared as a hologram, a geometric pattern that hurt to look at directly. You came, the architect said. Good, we need to talk about your test. Test? Hyunwoo asked carefully. The Dominion. The quarantine. Your eventual breakthrough. All of it was in part a test designed by us. We wanted to see what humanity would become under pressure. Would you use newfound power for liberation or conquest? Would you build alliances or empires? Hyunwoo felt anger rising. People died. Millions of people. You're saying it was a test? Everything is a test, the architect replied. The galaxy is entering a new era. The Dominion was our previous test subject. Hierarchical empire ruling through fear. It failed to bring lasting peace. Now we're trying something different. Voluntary cooperation between equals. You and your allies are that experiment. And if we fail your test, then humanity and all your allies will be quarantined permanently. Separated from the rest of the galaxy. You'll be allowed to exist, but you'll never leave your designated space. That is the consequence of failure. Hyunwoo was silent for a long moment. What are the conditions for success? That's the interesting part. We don't tell you. The test is genuine only if you make choices based on your own values, not our requirements. But I will say this. We're watching how you handle victory. That's often more telling than how you handle adversity. Back on Haven's Rest, the Coalition Council had reached a breaking point. The Dominion had offered a proposal, negotiate a partition. The Coalition could keep the outer territories they had liberated. The Dominion Corps would remain independent. It was practical but unsatisfying. We vote, Premier Youngmi said. Accept the partition or continue total war. The vote was split exactly down the middle. Before they could break the tie, Sub-Commander Vithra arrived. The Dominion defector had become a voice for moderate Dominion citizens. She addressed the council with a stunning proposal. A federated galaxy, she said. Former Dominion worlds maintain local autonomy, but accept coalition oversight for security and rights protections. War crime trials for those who committed atrocities, but amnesty for ordinary citizens. It's not perfect, but it's sustainable. Why should we trust any Dominion proposal? Matriarch Ilara asked, her pain obvious. Because the alternative is war until one side is exterminated, Vithra replied. And even if you win, ruling an empire built on resentment will destroy you from within. Trust me. I watched it happen to us. General Kyung-soo stood to protest, but Premier Youngmi raised her hand for silence. The general makes good points. The Dominion has caused immeasurable suffering, but Vithra is also right. If we become conquerors, we become what we fought against. Hyunwoo returned from his meeting with the architect. He shared what he had learned, though he kept the details vague. The old ones were testing them. The galaxy was watching to see what humanity and its allies would choose. Months of negotiation followed. The Treaty of Stars was drafted, revised, debated, and revised again. Not everyone was happy. Some called it betraying the revolution. Others called it the only path to peace. In the end, the treaty was signed. The Galactic Dominion was dissolved. In its place, the Federated Worlds was born. Each species maintained sovereignty, but cooperated voluntarily on defense, trade, and rights protections. War crime trials would proceed, but ordinary citizens received amnesty. The architect observed and delivered judgment. Humanity and its allies have passed. You chose mercy over vengeance when you had the power to choose either. That is the mark of a mature civilization. The quarantine barriers around hundreds of developing worlds lowered. Earth's victory had given hope to the entire galaxy. Tyranny could be defeated. Freedom could be won. But victory had its costs. Commander Tai Yang was honored as a hero, but that didn't bring him back. Lieutenant Bora struggled with nightmares from battle. Dr. Minji worked endlessly on war-torn worlds, healing former enemies. Officer Ji-won discovered a talent for diplomacy and joined the Federation's peacekeeping forces. Yun-woo retired from active service. He chose to teach at Earth's new multi-species naval academy. Training the next generation seemed more important than fighting more battles. 5 years later, he stood on the bridge of the original Defiant Dawn, now a museum ship. A young Keelar cadet, the first of her species to attend Earth's academy, approached him nervously. "Admiral Hyun-woo," she said, "can I ask you something? Everyone wants to know. Was it worth it? All the fighting, all the deaths?" Hyun-woo looked around the bridge. The museum was full of visitors today. Humans, Kellar, Torvin, even some former Dominion citizens, all learning history together. Children of former enemies playing in the corridor. "Yes," he said finally. "Every scar, every sacrifice, every moment of doubt. Because we didn't just win our freedom. We proved that different species, different ideologies, different ways of thinking can work together, can build something better together. That's the real victory." Years later, the Defiant Dawn 2 launched, a joint construction by humans, Kellar, and former Dominion engineers. Its mission: explore beyond Old One's territory. Its captain, Hana, Hyun-woo's granddaughter. As the ship jumped to hyperspace, the architect watched and sent a message to the other Old Ones. "They're ready. Let them spread their wings. Let them show the universe what cooperation can achieve." The galaxy had changed, not through conquest, but through the simple, radical idea that different peoples could choose to work together, that empires built on fear would always fall to alliances built on respect, and humanity, once imprisoned behind a quarantine wall, had shown the way.